Okay. I think we are live. Let's see. My mic is working. Looks like the background is working. Is there any sort of looping? I don't think so. I think we're good. Seems good. Cool. Okay. Welcome everyone. This is Andre's Restart. Let me know how everything is looking and sounding. But tonight we're going to do a little bit of Q&A. We're going to be talking about just kind of like the news that's been coming up throughout the week. Actually, it's been fairly substantial. So I feel like doing the sort of midweek live stream today, this time makes a good amount of sense. Just today, we heard that from apparently Jeff Snyder, who's apparently a reliable source when it comes to films, that Universal and Illumination are closing the deal on a Legend of Zelda movie. So we'll be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about the latest Pikmin 4 news. We're also going to be talking about the number of different things that are coming out about a potential Nintendo Direct or lack thereof. We'll kind of be trying to talk about it from both sides of the argument here. And whatever else you guys come up with in chat. So we'll be doing this for about 90-ish minutes to 2 hours. We'll see how things are going, and that's the general plan for the evening. Let me just see here. Okay, cool. Alright, looks like it's working. I actually took a nap right before I went live, so I'm trying to come back to life here. Yeah, and now I kind of like my hair is a mess every day. Yeah, I gotta get a haircut, but it's fine. All right, so let's just check in with the chat and we'll get things started. I'm seeing here that Hal Bast is saying that everything looks and sounds good. Thank you very much. All right, so Megaton Menace says, "Can you please rank all of the tiers?" Or asks, "Yeah, can you please rank all of the Tears of the Kingdom temples and dungeons from worst to best? Also, Riju is best girl." Yeah, if Zelda died, I'd be like, Link, why aren't you dating Riju? Like, I mean, yeah, Riju is best girl. She's pretty awesome. I mean, Paya's pretty cool too. Purah's pretty cool as well, but of course Purah's like ancient, but she's still cool. Yeah, I mean they're all cool. They're all cool. But in terms of ranking the dungeons, let's see. Okay, without spoiling anything, and really there's only like 4 normal-ish dungeons. Like the others are a little, the rest is all for debate. But of the 4 clearly defined dungeons, I would say, so for me, I like to look at it from beginning in terms of like when you go into the town and see what's going on, or walk into the province and start to discover the problem and learn about that story, the mystery there, discover the characters and what's going on, and the build up to the actual dungeon, then the dungeon, then the final boss. Like, to me, I like to put that all together because I think it's all a part of the experience. So when you break it down like that, it's tougher for me to say. So maybe I'll break it down in 2 ways. Just in terms of the dungeon, and then in terms of the overall experience of that area and that story beat to the game. So if we're just talking about the dungeons themselves, I would say that the water dungeon is last place. And it's not because it's bad. It's just it's a lot quicker and easier than the others, and it's just not as impressive as the others either. That's something else. Even though it's just a few islands in the sky. So there are other elements to the water dungeon that make it really cool, but like just the dungeon itself, that to me is a little bit limiting. And then the boss fight, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the boss fight it's a good boss fight. I don't think any of the boss fights in the game are bad, but if I had to rank like boss designs, it's my least favorite of the 4 core dungeons. So water dungeon, in terms of like the dungeon experience, just that part, not the story, last. Then I would put the fire dungeon second, like we're second to last. So I'm ranking from worst to last, from worst to best. And that's just because I think it's cool, but it just I don't know, the overall structure. I mean, I guess you could argue, maybe I do like the fire dungeon more than the wind dungeon. Yeah, you know what? If we're just talking about dungeon, I would rank wind dungeon like third best or second worst, right? So water, wind, fire is second, and then the boss fights are both great. I actually say the wind dungeon has a better boss fight, but I think I like the layout for the fire dungeon a lot more than the layout of the wind dungeon. And then lightning dungeon has a fantastic boss, very challenging. It was actually the toughest boss for me personally. It was probably just because of the amount of hearts I had, because I just prioritized stamina, didn't upgrade my armor. I was getting one-shotted by every little thing. Like a speck of dust would hit me and I would die. So I died like 13 times before actually beating, maybe like a half a dozen or so. I died a lot before beating that. So the extra challenge there was cool, but the actual dungeon, like the puzzles, there were several phases. You were exploring, getting deeper, and then it kind of opened up. And even when it opened up, there was a lot to figure out, and it was challenging. So for me, I would say that the lightning dungeon is hands down the best. Now, if we account for the story stuff, like the lead up, because I think the lead up and the characters definitely impacts my overall interpretation of the dungeons. I think I would still probably put the water dungeon last. And I like it more story stuff because I do like working with Sidon. Sidon is a really cool character. And there are some parts that are in the lead up to the water dungeon that are really cool. There's some discoveries that go underwater that are pretty awesome. I don't want to say what, but there's some pretty cool stuff there. I mean, and the mechanics of the platforms leading up to a dungeon as well, like the water, the anti-gravity and the water orb, even though the anti-gravity is in other parts of the world as well, but there's a lot of it in the lead up to the water dungeon, and then those water bubbles, like that's all really cool. Like it's very fun, and then seeing Sidon and having that history of Mipha. And there's even like an area about Mipha, and you actually have to explore Zora's domain fairly well to be able to get to the dungeon. And then seeing all the like the gunk and stuff, like I would say, yeah, that one, that even it's fun. It's very cool, but I would still rank it last. The Wind Dungeon, I actually would notch it up a little. It actually be my second because the lead up, getting to know Tulin in his more adult form and exploring the mountains and flying higher and higher and higher into the air. Like, the verticality for that one is just extremely impressive. So, that to me goes all the way up to number 2. The Fire Dungeon, it's cool, but it and the Goron stuff is cool, but it doesn't, it's not enough. Like, the experience and everything of getting to the Wind Dungeon puts it above for me when we talk about that lead up. And the Lightning Dungeon still wins. Like, there's so many cool stuff that happens leading up to the Lightning Dungeon with the Gerudo and the battles that ensue, and just like you meet the final boss with the boss for that more than once. Like, it's I would say it just makes it an even stronger case for the best dungeon of the 4. So that's how I would rank them if we account for like the lead up and stuff. if we're talking my favorite lead up, though, it is the Wind. I like the lead up to the Wind dungeon the most. Like, if we're just talking about that part. And then I might even argue that the second best lead up is for the Water dungeon, even though I rank it last. The lead up is very cool. Alright. Let's see here. Good evening, Paul Dune. Good evening, Juicy Noise. Juicy Noise, where are the Sheikah Tech at? Sheikah Tech. I think that I don't think it's that. Maybe there is some sort of crazy story detail or lore detail that I have yet to see that might explain more on it, or maybe they'll reveal it later on via DLC or some interview. But my interpretation is simply that they repurposed the Sheikah technology, because it's not like it doesn't exist. It does exist. The Pura pad for one, and then all the towers. That's all repurposed Sheikah technology. So I think in the half decade or so, or the however many years it was between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they simply took apart the Sheikah technology, they studied and analyzed it, and they repurposed it. And that's it. Because there is Sheikah technology in Tears of the Kingdom. It's less prevalent, sure, but it is still there. It's not like it's disappeared entirely. So that's my interpretation. I don't... Unless more evidence presents itself, I don't think it really goes much deeper than that. They just took it apart and reworked it. Now, what happened to the Divine Beasts? Maybe it still falls under that category of just being repurposed, but that is a lot, and they are kind of like really important historical pieces to the world of Hyrule. So I'm not sure about the Divine Beasts. That there might be something else to that, and maybe that's something I haven't discovered yet. I'm not sure. But overall, I think the answer is just Sheikah technology was just repurposed, which is why we had the Pura pad, which is why we have the towers. And those towers are great because they launch you really high up into the air. They're super useful. Jackbot32. Do you think the update in the Direct website likely means a Direct Mini, a normal size Direct, or a partner showcase, or etc.? Okay, Jack, but I'm glad you asked me this, because I think this one is one that some people may be misinterpreting. Because initial reports are I do think are a little misleading for this. So let me see. I think there is actually a news site that kind of spoke out on this topic. That other news outlets are just reporting it. But one news outlet has kind of spoke ill of the circumstance. Let me see. I'm trying to find what they said. They post a lot. Okay. Alright, so let me read you this. This is from Nintendo Everything. Alright, this kind of will dispel, I guess, the excitement you might have about this news, because they don't think it means much. So let me read this to you guys. Let me put it on screen here for a moment. One quick moment while I set this up. I think... Okay. There we go. Yeah, it's right there. Alright, so Nintendo Everything put this out. It's that time of the year when the Nintendo Direct rumor mill starts up. So we're just putting out a PSA to be careful what you read, listen to. There are already stories going around that are incorrect. The big rumor this week is that an official Nintendo Direct page was updated. Some are reporting that this was the Japanese page, which is incorrect. Not only that, but this is proven multiple times to not mean anything. We sometimes see people say that they are constantly saying Nintendo Direct rumors, which is why we again caution the sources you follow. We're never behind any of the rumors and rarely share them, but the ones we do report on from others we trust are usually accurate. So, yeah. Their Nintendo Everything is kind of dispelling that rumor, and I've seen the rumor. Now, my interpretation is, I guess, whenever we've seen like these reports of, oh, a Nintendo website was updated. Figuring out the timing of that is tough. So let me see. Nintendo Direct website updated. Well, when I Google that, what comes up? The Direct archive.
Thank you.
Okay. I just see Nintendo stuff. Let's see here. Nintendo Japan updates Direct page, hinting at upcoming showcase. So this is coming from The Gamer, or even more soon. My Nintendo News. 15 hours ago, they put out this report. Japan Nintendo updates Nintendo Direct page today. Generally precede the presentation. It turns out Nintendo has updated the special page of Nintendo Direct on its official website around 8 a.m. Current situation is known about the background of the update, and there is a strong view from users that the annual Nindy will be a broadcast soon. So, at least from this article, is saying that it's just a Nintendo everything. But let me go to the actual source here. I'd like a Nindy Direct. So this is all in Japanese. I don't understand it. I can't, like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, there's nothing here that I can verify. Like, how am I supposed to interpret the Nintendo Direct was updated from this? I don't see anything. Inspect element. I don't even use this stuff. Is there anything here that you can, like, sort of figure out? I just don't understand any of this. So I can't really tell you much from here. I'm inclined to believe Nintendo everything, that we probably shouldn't make too much of this. Maybe we get like a Nindy Direct, and that's what this is, if anything. So I'm not gonna buy too much into it. It is just one little thing, and even if it is legit, even if it is something that hits at a Direct, does that mean it's happening next week? Does that mean it's happening in a month? It doesn't really give us much. So yeah, I'm not gonna take. I'm not gonna buy too much into that one piece of the Direct puzzle, if you will. All right, so I got a super chat here from Taker610. Thank you for the super chat. Taker610 says, Dungeon Breakdown. 2 sky, 2 depths, 1 surface. Yep, that checks out. Thank you. Having Hope 5 has renewed their membership. Thank you for renewing your membership, Having Hope. It's great having you around. Hello. Alright. I do want to go back to what you were saying, Jackbot, about the update real quick, just because I do think a Direct is coming. I just don't think it's happening next week. And I'd love to be wrong. I hope I am wrong. The sooner the better. Because I want to see this news. Now, I mean, I don't need the news next week. I don't. If it comes in a month, fine. If it comes in 2 months, fine. That'll be a little exasperating, but we'll make do. But what I do think there's going to be a normal Direct, personally. That's why I put my prediction video today. I think there's going to be a Nintendo Direct in July, early July, and I believe this just because Nintendo needs to make first-party announcements for the second half of the year. I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, we're just going to get a partner showcase. We're going to wait until September," but the fact of the matter is, we don't have a Nintendo game for August or September or October or November or December, and because of that fact alone, I believe there has to be a series of announcements to put in Nintendo games for those months. So when I say Nintendo games, I don't mean a game for Switch. I mean something that is published or directly made by Nintendo. I'm expecting a handful of titles. So, given that, I think that really the only way Nintendo would announce those kinds of games, like that kind of level of series of announcements, would be in a Direct or a big presentation for a new system. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that those are two sort of showcases where we've seen Nintendo make that many announcements all together. So I expect a bigger announcement from Nintendo this summer, and my prediction is July. But we'll get more to that a little bit later on. I want to kind of get through the chat here. Hello there, Joycey J. Hello there, Samuel. Samuel, did you see that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth trailer at Summer Games Fest? I did not. I did hear that people were saying, is it like 2 discs or so? I haven't looked into it all. I'm not paying attention to Summer Games Fest. If Nintendo doesn't have a direct presence there, I'm just going to focus on other things. So, yeah, I'm not really paying attention to it. However, I did see that Nintendo tweeted out about a new Sonic Superstars, and that looks really cool. It might be one of the best looking Sonic games I've seen in years. So I'm actually really excited about that. It's a day one, as I said in my tweet, it's a day one buy for me. Like, I'm very excited about that. I'm assuming that's one of the announcements from Summer Games Fest. I'm just assuming that because Nintendo tweeted out about it. I don't know where it was announced. Jackbot. Has the Prime 4 register your interest page been there for years, or is it actually new? I've heard both things and don't know what to believe. You know, that's a great question. I've kind of assumed that it's a new thing, just because it came up recently. But let me see if we can dig a little deeper on this. Metroid Prime 4 interest. I'm just kind of Googling, see if the article comes up. Alright, so this article is from 2 days ago. What's the source? Alright. However, some fans in the Gaming Leaks and Reverse subreddit seem to think that could be changing. As a listing for the game is now on the My Nintendo store in the UK, it should be noted that there's some debate about how long the listing has been around. Yeah. How long has it been around? That's the tough part. Was it just recently discussed? Because I saw it pop up this week. But is it something that people just started talking? I mentioned it earlier today. I thought it was a new. That's tough. Alright, let's see here. GG Recon. What are they saying? Alright, so they're talking about the Nintendo store as well. So we've seen I can't say with certainty how long this has been up, just from kind of glancing over this stuff. But this wouldn't be the first time we've seen something like this pop up for Metroid Prime 4 when Nintendo's trying to gauge our interest level. What I can tell you, just what I believe, right? So it's kind of like a dude, trust me, bro moment. But a while ago, earlier in the year, and I've said this multiple times in my videos, but I did hear that Metroid Prime 4 is complete. Now, I don't know if that means it's ready for release. Like, they could be still, like, QA testing, debugging, all that stuff. But the game, from what I've heard, is content complete. And that was earlier this year. So, and for the record, the source, I asked around a few people who would have a better understanding of who to trust, and they're like, oh yeah, you could trust them. So I understand. Like, I can't tell you who, what said what. So it is a situation where, do you trust me? Do you don't? Do you don't? I understand. But I'm just telling you, I believe the game could come out this year if Nintendo wanted it to come out this year. But also, recently, Nate the Hate has publicly been saying that Metroid Prime 4 is going to be coming out at some point this fiscal year, and he's been suggesting even within this calendar year. He had one post that was suggesting it could come out as early as this September. I don't know if I would predict September, but I mean, it really just comes down to what Nintendo plans for the holidays. So, I think Metroid Prime 4 is coming out by the end of the year. That's what I believe based off what I've heard. But even based off what I've heard, Nintendo could hold something for longer, right? So regardless, take it with a grain of salt. But that is the bandwagon I'm riding on. I think Metroid Prime 4 is coming out this year. And even if it's not coming out this year, I think they're going to show it off this year. And I expect that in the next major direct, which I think will be this summer, we're going to see Metroid Prime 4. Let's see, I'm kind of just looking through the chat here. Joycey, you like the fire second, the final unlock, you had to cheese, but everything else made up for it. The whole story and experience was fun. Yeah, I cheesed the fire dungeon a bit as well. I tricked the system. I mean, it's all in, you can explore the world however you choose, and I still spent a good amount of time in the fire dungeon, so I don't think I really like cheated it, but I definitely solved the puzzle in the unintended way. Like I climbed to like the very top of the tower, and I paraglided over to the last piece to collect, or like the last puzzle to solve, the last room. So yeah, I definitely did it in an unintended way, but it's almost like it's intended for us to find unintended ways to do that. Spheromancer, lead up and boss both go to Wind Temple, then the actual dungeon goes to Lightning. I think you might be right on that, actually. Like, if we're talking about like the best parts, I think you may be right. I'll say because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't experienced it yet, but the Wind boss, all I'm going to say is don't just use your bow and arrow. Try diving headfirst and see what happens. If you do it in that way, it'll be exhilarating in the best way possible. Hello there, Kez Retro Gaming. How are you? I'm doing well. Lone Spirit. Hey, just wondering, do you think that Link will talk in the new Zelda movie? And what do you think that would do for the Zelda universe? Fantastic question, which kind of brings us to like the big recent topic. This came out, this is new, this is like breaking news. Like this happened within the last couple hours. Last like handful of hours. So there is this show, The Hot Mic, on the John Roca YouTube channel. And John Roca invited Jeff Snyder, who's known to have great information when it comes to movies. Reputable. And he's saying that Universal and Illumination are closing on a deal for a Legend of Zelda movie. And what's funny about this is this sort of lines up with a few rumors we've talked about in the past, how Illumination might be working on a Zelda movie. And this seems to be the closest thing we have to concrete information on it. And I think this is probably what's happening. I'm gonna get to your question, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of explaining the circumstances. And also choking on air. Okay. So yeah, so it looks like this is happening. A Zelda movie is happening. In terms of how it's going to be handled, I think they're going to do a good job. I think they did a stellar job with the Mario movie. I think they understood what we wanted from a Mario movie. And now the Mario movie is like, what, the second most impressive best-selling animated movie of all time, and still counting. So they did a great job with that. Many people have enjoyed it, even though critically it's not the most well-reviewed. I think critics are looking at it from a certain perspective, which isn't fair for what the movie is. So it's an enjoyable movie. It's a family-friendly movie, and they did great with that. And I remember when we first heard that they were working on a Mario movie, there was a lot of concern that Illumination would be able to put out a good movie. And I think they did a great job. I think working closely with Nintendo and Miyamoto, they did what they needed the Mario movie to be. They absolutely did. Illumination grew and evolved throughout this process to make this proper Mario movie. So with that in mind, I don't really doubt that they will grow and evolve and adapt to make a proper Zelda movie. I'm going to assume that the Zelda team or Nintendo, I don't know if it's the Zelda team, but Nintendo will, certain executives will work closely with Universal and Illumination to make sure this Zelda movie is what it needs to be. Now, I know there's a lot of debate about what this movie needs to be. I'm going to get to the voice acting. But my point is that I think we shouldn't just assume that what Illumination has done is what they're going to do with the Zelda movie. I think that whatever team they put together to make this is going to be equipped to make the Zelda movie it needs to be. I have faith in Nintendo. They've shown, at least with the Mario movie, that they know what needs to be done. So, I mean, granted, the Mario movie is more of a simple thing, but I think they're going to probably take it a little bit more seriously with the Zelda movie. And so when I say that, an Illumination-style movie, yes, they've all been animated movies, but I think you can make an animated movie and still have it, and it can still have serious tones. Like, for example, How to Train Your Dragon, one of my favorite, it is my favorite animated movie. I'm not saying that movie is like, super gritty, but it does have drama in it. It does have realism in it. It does have some dark moments alongside a lot of the fanciful fantasy elements as well that make it family friendly. Like it's more of a proper blend, and I think they can strike something like that with the Zelda movie. Think the art style that we saw in the tech demo for Wii U for Zelda, the one that looked like a Twilight Princess on steroids. Like, it could look something like that, or maybe like an even better version of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, because those characters are pretty substantial. But now let me get to the voice acting. I know that was long-winded, getting to the voice acting now. I think they need to voice Link. I do. And that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough because they still didn't voice Link in this effort of Tears of the Kingdom. But this Link is the most characterized Link than ever before. He has more of a background. He has more of a personality. He is the first Link that, at least in recent history, I have to go back and play the Zeldas to double check, but I can't remember a prior Zelda where you weren't able to name yourself. But this version of Legend of Zelda, Link is Link. You don't name him otherwise. He is Link, and that's who you are. So, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have characterized this Link more than any other. And while that's not actually giving him a voice, it is a huge step in the right direction. And also, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are in terms of the major plot beats, is voice acted. We haven't had that for a prior Zelda game. So, they made huge strides with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They got us accustomed to voice acting. We have a voice-acted Zelda, we have a voice-acted Ganondorf, and they're both great, I think. So I think that, I'm not saying they're going to use the same actors, they're going to use different actors. But I think people are now prepared to hear voices in the Zelda series. The big challenge is going to be Link, right? But I also think that there was a lot of pushback that people gave on the voice of Mario, especially Chris Pratt. And a lot of people were very hard on him and his voice when they heard it early on. But I think most people, not saying everyone, I'm sure some of you in the chat will disagree, but I think most people warmed up, or at least grew to accept the Chris Pratt's voice in the movie, and it was actually better than what we initially perceived. So But when I say that, what I'm trying to get at is that I think something similar may happen with Link. That I think they're going to have to voice Link. I think when you consider Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they've already kind of set a precedent that other characters will be voice acted, but also they've set this precedent of characterization of Link. So I think this Link will have more of a character, more of a personality, and will be voiced. And while that may be a tough casting, and there will be people who will not be okay with it, I think similar to the Chris Pratt situation, most people will grow to be they will grow to accept it once the movie comes out. But there's going to be controversy, there's going to be debates, there's going to be people that are going to hate it, there's going to be people that are going to love it, there's going to be a lot of people that are just going to be okay with it. Like, that no matter what person they choose, no matter who it is, people are going to be upset about it. But I think if you're going to have a movie, if you're going to tell a story, your characters need to talk. They absolutely do. They can get away with Link not talking in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom because the cutscenes are relatively short. And especially when a lot of those cutscenes don't even have Link in them, it's a lot easier. So I think that's actually kind of interesting now to think about. Most of the memories don't actually have Link in them. And then the cutscenes that Link is in, yeah, I mean, I think they actually did a good job of positioning the story in Tears of the Kingdom now. I'm not going to spoil anything, but just thinking on all the cutscenes they had, like, there was a lot that had good voice acting, but it didn't have Link in it. And there were others that had good voice acting, but there were moments where Link didn't need to talk. It was just kind of like, all right, you're gonna talk now, but I'm here holding my sword, ready to go. Like, there were these moments. So it was actually pretty well done from that perspective. And the reason I say that is because in Breath of the Wild, they felt that when we saw a lot of the memories with Link and the other characters, there's a lot of moments that felt awkward because Link wasn't talking. It was these long monologues, except they were dialogues with Link not responding audibly. In Tears of the Kingdom, they had more. They were very tactful about where they put Link in with these different story scenes that made it more reasonable for him to not respond. It made sense. So that was kind of it's kind of a realization I'm having now as I'm sort of like talking about it. But yeah, I think that we have gotten closer to a moment where Link can talk. And I think when the movie comes around, there's gonna be controversy, but it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be a whole movie and not just short cutscenes. They're going to need to have Link talk. And one other thing to point out here is that this movie is probably gonna take a long time. Like, if they're just finalizing the deal now, that doesn't mean they're in the very early stages. Like, I don't know how long it'll take them to make this movie, but I have to imagine it'll at least take 2 to 3 years, if not 4 to 5 years. So by the time we get this next Zelda movie, it may be meant to coincide with a Zelda game, a new Zelda game. It may be that iteration of Link will talk in the game. Only time will tell. But that's kind of my take on this whole situation. I'm just looking through the chat now. Paco Salvador. I would be so mad if Illumination replaced Zelda's song for 80s pop song. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that... Well, it's all about matching the aesthetic. So the Mario movie had some Mario and Donkey Kong themes, and then some pop culture music that I think fit the overall aesthetic of the Mario movie. Those 80s pop songs are not going to fit the aesthetic for a Zelda movie, but maybe like something from Lord of the Rings or like Conan the Barbarian or something. I'm trying to think. What is it? Is that... Am I remembering that thing correctly? Is it Conan the Barbarian? Conan. Oh, no, I think I am right. Yeah, I am. Like, you know, just more of like the epic medieval kind of story movies, like those, like, and sort of taking, or action, taking those types of songs and scores and putting it to the Zelda movie alongside some Zelda tunes, that would be more reasonable. But yeah, 80s pop is not going to fit Zelda. Unless this is Zelda in the 80s, which would not be a good idea for a first Zelda movie. A guy you don't know. Afternoon. I also think we'll see Prime 4 unveiled by the end of this year. My hope is that, similar to Dread, the reveal to release window for Prime 4 will be only a few months or so. Yeah, I mean, so let's say I'm spot on about the reveal timing, and they show off Metroid Prime 4 in a Nintendo Direct this July. If some of the speculation by Nate the Hate is correct, it could come out in September, which July to September, that's 2 months. But even if let's say it's an October or November release, that's still a relatively short window. So I think the re-reveal of Metroid Prime 4 to release is going to be 2 to 4 months. So that, I would say that's a fairly short window. Hunter Murphy, yes, Colgera was a very, very cool boss fight. Very cool. Spheromancer. Personally, my only gripe with the Mario movie was them using real music. All the Mario songs at their fingertips, we still have to hear AC/DC and Beastie Boys. Yeah, I understand. I think part of that is to relate it to a larger audience that doesn't play Mario. I personally, if I had to pick, I'd rather just have all Mario music. I get that, but I also, watching the Mario movie, I didn't despise the choices. But, well, if I had to pick, yeah, I would pick more Mario music. And the same would also apply with Zelda. Joyce J. I just hope it's not campy, has a serious tone with funny moments. I agree. That should be a Zelda movie. Serious tone, but with funny moments. It's got to be an epic, but with some comedic relief. Totally agree. Like, think like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. They have a serious tone, but there's tons of comedic relief. Like, that's what you kind of have to go for. How to Train Your Dragon. I think that's another good one. And that's an animated movie. Hunter Murphy. I really wanted Prime 4 to be a Switch 2 launch title so the series gets more recognition, but I think it's now unlikely. I think that depends on how you look at it, though. So, one, could still happen. But personally, I don't think Prime 4 is going to be a launch title for Switch 2, regardless of when Switch 2 comes out. I think it could be launch window, so it'll come out within a few months of Switch 2. But I think the game they gotta launch with Switch 2 is 3D Mario. They need something it's guaranteed to sell hard and get a lot of people to buy the system. Metroid Prime 4, I think it could work out well either way. But I kind of personally like the idea of it. Let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that Switch 2 is not coming out this year. It's coming out next year for sure, right? We don't know that, but let's just say it is, right? Let Tears of the Kingdom enjoy this year to sell well. There'll be a few more games, including Metroid Prime 4. And maybe Metroid Prime 4 is like the biggest new Nintendo game that comes out during the holidays. And it's going to be an opportunity for people to try out Metroid Prime 4 with the huge Switch install base. It may be Metroid's best opportunity to sell, because there's not going to be a new Pokemon game coming out this holiday, just DLC. Tears of the Kingdom might just also have DLC, if even that. And many people will already have played or beaten Tears of the Kingdom. And so when I say that, especially if they save the Mario game for Switch 2 next year, it gives Metroid the opportunity to maybe be like that big game. Now, I'm not going to pretend like Metroid Prime 4 is going to sell 30 million. I think that's probably unlikely. But before Breath of the Wild, Zelda games at best would sell 7 to 8 million. That was at best. So who's to say Metroid Prime 4 can't be that a Breath of the Wild moment where if it's given the holiday space to truly dominate, at least in terms of like the core gamer from Nintendo, like that might give it an opportunity to reach a larger audience. Maybe it sells 5 million. 10 million is kind of like my super optimistic ceiling. But, you know, whatever it is, I think it will be a great opportunity for the series to really take off. And with Switch 2 coming out next year, they could give it a second wind. There could be a massive DLC update and along with a visual and performance update as well for Switch 2. Give it a second wind. And that might help boost sales even more so. So, that might be the best of both worlds. And if, for whatever reason, there's like some sort of VR capability or AR capability with Switch 2, that might be a cool feature to enjoy with Metroid Prime 4. So, I don't necessarily think it needs to be launching with Switch 2 to really push it. Now, there is another little issue. With Metroid Prime 4 potentially coming out in the same year as Tears of the Kingdom, it makes it an unlikely candidate to win Game of the Year. But I'll have an optimism that it will at least be a Game of the Year nominee. And let's say they wait till next year to come out with it. Well, I think 3D Mario would probably be a Game of the Year candidate, potentially taking Game of the Year. So regardless, I kind of see Prime 4 kind of not winning Game of the Year, just because I see Mario or Zelda taking it, and of course there's all the other games that come out from the other companies as well, so that would make it tough. But regardless, I expect Metroid Prime 4 to be critically acclaimed. I think it'll be reviewed well, and I kind of like the idea of Prime 4 not coming out right next to Switch 2 and not right next to Zelda, so that way it can maybe have a healthy distance between Mario and Zelda, so as like that big core single player experience, a lot of Nintendo fans may give it a try and be like, oh, this is pretty damn cool. I didn't know that there was a game that was kind of like traditional 3D Zelda, but in space with shooting. That's amazing. So, yeah, that's an oversimplification of what Metroid is, but, you know, if I'm going to explain it to, like, a casual audience, it's kind of like that. Interesting. Alright, Samuel A. asks, do you think Metroid Prime 4 will change the formula up from others? I don't know if it's even possible to make it more open. I don't know if they will change the formula, but I do think it's possible. It's total, and I know it's possible. I think it's kind of cool playing through the depths in Tears of the Kingdom. I think there's a lot of elements of the depths in Tears of the Kingdom that feel Metroid-esque. And that's an open world. So, imagine a game where it's about exploring the world and finding ways to get deeper and deeper and deeper. Somewhat like Tears of the Kingdom, but imagine if that was the entire focus of the game. Because most Metroid games are about exploring a planet and getting deeper and deeper to the heart or root of the problem. So, maybe they could handle it in a way where it's more open. I'm not saying that's what I want, just for the record. I'm just exploring the possibility. So, I can kind of see a scenario where they could maybe make something like that, where it's more open. But I think they would have to... I still want some linear elements. I mean, I think what's cool about the Metroid games is that they're made to seem linear, or rather, they're sort of designed in a way where as you play, you make discoveries like, oh, I have this ability now I can go do this elsewhere, and you kind of go back and forth throughout the world. You backtrack, and you can progress. But with some Metroid games, sequence breaking is a possibility, especially with Metroid Dread. It's like actually part of the design, where you can do some things out of order. So there's actually an extra layer there that goes beyond just typical linearity. So it's interesting how that's handled. I guess I don't want Metroid Prime 4 to be totally open, because I feel, especially with a lot of the traditional 3D Zelda fans, they're not all of them are excited about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So I think Metroid, maybe they should kind of keep it more linear, because in a way it's very similar to those 3D Zeldas. So it might be better to not do that. But on the flip side, if we're trying to think of like a way for the game to sell more, then maybe making a more open world might do it. But maybe there's a way to kind of have a cross of both. But that's something I have to think on. It's a tough thing to sort of formulate, because like if you make it open, then how do you make it so that you can have those Metroidvania style progression points where you obtain a power up and now you can explore more? That's inherently unopen. So it's like trying to mix oil and water. You can't do it. So it would have to be something that's very, very expertly designed. I do at least think that maybe kind of like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, it's not so much that the game is open, but there's a lot of very large areas that at first glance it may appear open, but it's actually a linear game. Now, with Metroid, I don't know if they would need to be that big, because it's more about going through, tight corridors and fighting aliens and exploring puzzles and temples and things like that. But I think there could be some areas that are large scale. Sean Castlesinger, have you seen the Dragon Quest movie on Netflix? I have not seen the Dragon Quest movie on Netflix, so unfortunately I cannot give you my take. I apologize. I haven't been on Netflix in a while. Oh, I might be slightly lying. I saw my father watching Fubar the other day with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I thought it was kind of... I mean, it's clearly not meant to be taken seriously. But I guess it's fun. And I'm terrified. I am absolutely terrified of the day we see the One Piece Netflix adaptation. I think that that's almost guaranteed to be a failure. But I hope it's not, because I don't want One Piece to be ruined. Like, my problem with live-action adaptations for anime is that I think people who haven't given an anime a try and are more casual fans, if even fans at all, like, oh, I'm not really wishing... Like, people who are not really willing to watch an anime, but when they hear about a series so often, then they see it as a live-action version on Netflix, oh, well, I guess I'll watch this instead. But when they watch, like, wow, this is kind of bad. Why do people like that? Like, I feel like live action anime adaptations are just a really... They're not good for anime reputation, I think. And I think the same can be said for video game adaptations as well. If they're not good, I don't think that's a good way to advertise a video game. I think it could stain the image of what a game can be. Like, imagine... I mean, just think about how upset Nintendo probably was about that original Mario movie that came out so many decades ago. Like, that is definitely not how Nintendo wants people to perceive Mario. Jackbot, random question: Have you seen the new Spider-Verse movie? I haven't seen it yet. I need to. I haven't seen it yet. I gotta watch it. Maybe I'll watch it this weekend. Aaron Rass. Hey, how's it going, Andres? I'm doing well. So you think Metroid Prime 4 is coming soon? What's the ETA for Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3 for Switch? So the problem with that is that I think there's a decent chance that Prime 2 and 3 don't come out before Prime 4. And I don't know. I want to see 2 and 3 as well. I think that they could do a thing where maybe they could announce Prime 4 is coming out this holiday, and Prime 2 and 3 would come out later this summer, like maybe shadow dropped or coming really soon. I mean, if Prime 1 can be shadow dropped, why can't 2 and 3 be shadow dropped, right? So maybe Prime 2 and 3 come out really soon, and like they're closer than we think. That's possible. And it may be the case that people will want to play these Metroid games once Metroid Prime 4 is shown off. It's kind of like when once Nintendo showed more off of Tears of the Kingdom, there was a deal to play Breath of the Wild. So they may do something like that where, hey, so they'll show off Prime 4, get people really excited, and then put out Prime 2 and 3 really quickly. Probably like very basic remasters, nothing too extravagant, but put them out there so people can play and enjoy them alongside Prime Remastered to prepare the oops, I hit the mic. To prepare them to prepare ourselves or whoever chooses to play them in lead up to Prime 4. If that doesn't happen, then I think Prime 2 and 3 would just come out randomly later down the road if Nintendo's going to make more Metroid games to kind of bridge the gap. Kind of like how I think they're handling Twilight and Wind Waker. So, we'll see. But assuming Prime 4 is coming out this holiday, it's either A, I think they're coming out this summer, or they're not coming out until sometime indefinitely after Prime 4. Celtic 14. Switch Force put out a new video to international Twitter sources saying June Direct. I'll have to take a look at that. I'll have to take a look. But I'll say that most insiders that get it right have not been saying there's a Direct happening in June. But Jeff Grubb recently has said that he's hearing rumblings about a Direct in July or some type of Direct. We're not sure what. So that's part of what's fueled my July prediction. But I'll have to take a look at that Switch Force video. I don't know what he said. Guy you don't know. You can get away with using pop culture songs in a Mario movie in a way that you can't with a Zelda movie, though I still think the songs were unnecessary in the Mario movie. Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying there. Bodolo. Pratt was just a controversial pick. Very few people batted an eye at Jack Black. True. But Mario is the main character. Bowser has a lot more characterization. So I think with Link, there's going to be some debates there with Link. Like, who, I mean, let me know what you guys think in the chat. Like, who would you want to be the voice actor for Link? I honestly don't know. Guy you don't know. I doubt Nintendo cares enough about the Game Awards to let it dictate how they position their game releases. I agree. I'm just trying to. Did I say something that suggested otherwise? I don't remember. I don't think Nintendo will position their games so they can be showcased during the Game Awards, like in terms of release date. But if it works out, if it's convenient for them, then they may show it off during the Game Awards. But I think there's probably a lot of factors that go into when they decide a game should come out. I think it ultimately comes down to they come up with a plan in terms of how they can make the game successful, and they go with it. But I also think there are certain games that they hold to different standards, right? Like I think Metroid Prime 4, Nintendo cares more about being successful than Metroid Prime Remastered. And when I say that, I mean that I don't expect Prime 4 to get shadow dropped like Prime Remastered. I think it's gonna have a marketing cycle. Like Metroid Dread, these are new games. So they were gonna be pushed in a different way. Also, since they're new games, there's more to advertise about them and tell people about, teach people what they're about. Tyler Bakila, you were 240 hours to the Tears of the Kingdom. What a good time you must have been having. Congratulations. Sean Castlesinger. The ending sucks, but the Dragon Quest movie has a great look. Worth a watch. Okay, maybe I'll at least just take a look, see how the art style is and stuff. Jackbot. What are your favorite anime? I like Cowboy Bebop, One Piece, and Monster. Favorite anime? I'm actually rewatching One Piece for a third time right now, so I'm a big fan of One Piece. I mean, I like the traditional ones. I like Naruto, I like Bleach, I like Demon Slayer, I like Attack on Titan, I like Death Note. I've watched some. I liked the first season of Promised Neverland, and unfortunately, it went downhill after that. I mean, I like a lot of anime. I don't like every single anime though. But I'll give them a try. You know, I haven't watched a new anime in a while. Ooh, one that I watched. It's been a few months, but like I watched Steins Gate a few months ago, and that was great. It was really good. Goblin Hunter, was it Goblin Hunter or Goblin Slayer? I think it was called Goblin Slayer. That was really good. There's a lot I like, but usually they're the shonen jump style. I'm actually, you know, I love Dragon Ball. You know, even though Dragon Ball is very simple, I think it's great. I love it. Like I don't think every story needs to be this super deep, like life-changing experience. I like stories like that, but not every story is about that. Some stories are just about having a good time. Sometimes stories are just about feeling good. Some stories are just about looking cool. So that's why whenever I see, like, so for example, for the Mario movie, when critics kind of berated it, I was like, but you know what this movie's about. Are you trying to say that there can't be, like, a very fast-paced, family-friendly Mario, you know, movie that's like a celebration of video gaming? Like, I think a lot of those critics aren't gamers. Like, clearly, like there was this one critic that was complaining about there being a cat Mario, suggesting that it made no sense, except, well, 3D World was all about cats, so, and Bowser's Fury, so actually it did make sense. Metroid Prime, are you anime only for One Piece, or do you read the manga as well? I am. I'm anime only for the most part. Occasionally, I might check the manga stuff, but I'm anime only. Like, I still haven't. I mean, I know what happens in One Piece. I'm aware of what Gear 5 is, for example, right? But last I checked, it hasn't been adapted in the anime yet, or if maybe they're close, maybe they've done it recently. I was caught up in Wano, and then I was like, you know what? Because I would watch like maybe an episode or two every few weeks. Like I would kind of wait a month or two and then watch a few and then take a break because they're kind of slow paced. And then a few months ago, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna stop watching for a while and just start from scratch, which is what I've been doing. So. But yeah, I mostly just watch the anime, but occasionally I'll read a manga. Like I read the manga for Attack on Titan because I needed to see the end, and I'm glad I did read the manga because they've taken a really long time to get to the end, which that's just ridiculous. Having up. I'm at like 47 shrines so far. I did only one dungeon. Going to the next one this weekend. You're doing the Zora's Temple next. Okay. Okay. Taking your time. That's a good way to go about it. Nishwick Pops, what's up? You really hope Persona 3 Reload comes to Switch. Alright. Alright. Risky Gumilar. What's your opinion on Pal World? I don't think I know what Pal World is. I don't even know what is Pal World? Is it a Pokemon thing? Or like something that's similar to Pokemon? Oh, okay. I now see what this is. Pal World on Steam is a brand new multiplayer open world survival crafting game. And it's clearly a Pokemon ripoff. But like a really cool one. I've seen footage of this. I'm looking at some of this stuff. I don't know. Maybe I have to give it a try. It looks kind of cool. I don't have much of an opinion on it because I haven't played it. So, But I mean, mixing guns and Pokemon-like creatures, bro. Some of them are like just reskins. Holy smokes! Are you serious? Some of these are like almost reskins of Pokemon, and it's just blatant. Like, let me show you. Let me just show you this. This is crazy. This is crazy. I'm gonna bring in Samuel A for a few minutes. Have a call-in planned. But let me show off this crazy thing, bro. This is a reskin of Lycanroc, and this is a reskin of Reshiram. That's obviously Wooloo. Like, it's just crazy. That's crazy. I can't believe they just reskinned Lycanroc. So, my opinion is it's a clear ripoff, but there may be some cool ideas there. They're using more powerful hardware so they can pull off more things. But that's it. Yeah. All right, let me see if I can call in Samuel A. I'll give him a call here. So yes, I'm adding in Samuel A. Samuel A is a member, so he can join in for some call-in segments. Samuel, there?
Yeah.
What's up, man? How you doing? Yeah, I can hear you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm very.
I lost you.
Oh, I said I'm doing good. I'm very busy. You?
No, I've just, Nintendo stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ton of stuff going on recently, as well as a ton of, today was very eventful for announcements.
Yeah, for sure. So
yeah.
was there
Summer Games Fest was a little bit disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit is an understatement, but but yeah, there's a lot of stuff I'd probably want to talk about, like Metroid, Zelda, Switch 2, Pikmin, but I know I can't talk about all those.
Right. So maybe you could add your own 2 cents to this, but I'm seeing a guy you don't know in the chat because earlier the guy you don't know was talking about how he doesn't think that Nintendo would kind of schedule their game releases around the Game Awards, to which I agreed, but I wasn't sure why he brought it up. And I'm guessing something I said was misconstrued because he's clarified. Earlier you said that you weren't sure if Prime 4 would release this year because it probably wouldn't win Game of the Year. I didn't mean it like that.
I don't think Nintendo cares about release timing for really anything.
Yeah.
Because they've kind of shown they hold stuff back, and Zelda could have came out last year, but I don't think it has anything to do with the Game Awards. I think they just come out with stuff when they want to come out with stuff.
Yeah, and when I was talking about that, I didn't mean it like that Nintendo would position Metroid Prime 4 in a place where they could win Game of the Year. I was just trying to say that it would be nice if Metroid Prime 4 could be positioned in a place to win Game of the Year, but the fact of the matter is, if it comes out this year, it's got to deal with Tears of the Kingdom. If it comes out next year, I think it has to deal with 3D Mario. Regardless, that doesn't matter, but I think positioning it maybe for this holiday, where there might not be a 3D Mario, and Tears of the Kingdom obviously has just come out now, it'll kind of have that holiday to be like the big new fancy Nintendo title. That's what I was trying to get at.
There's not going to be there's going to be games for the rest of the year, but there's not going to be a ton of juggernaut games. There's not going to be a 3D Mario, because at this point, I'm finding it hard to believe that a Switch 2 comes out this year. So I'm just going to assume
why not
early 2024.
Sure.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same boat, but what has changed your mind? Because I know you've been on the Switch 2 bandwagon for a while.
I have. I was saying May with you, with Tears of the Kingdom. But I think it's all confirmation bias. Like, if we look at it from an outside point of view, there's no rumblings of Switch 2 this year. Jeff Grubb hasn't heard of anything of it being announced, nor is like Nate DeHate or any of those other guys, as far as I know, for this year.
Right.
Everyone's saying 2024.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you there.
Do I think it's a mistake for them not to release it this year? Yes, I think it could be a mistake. Because if they release it this holiday, they're 100% going to preserve momentum. Because Switch is going to sell 15 million. But if they wait till holiday 2024, it could get a little iffy. That's kind of like a Wii situation. I think they'll find a way, though. As long as they make it backwards compatible and make it a very friendly jump. For example, the new Prince of Persia game, it's still being released on last gen. It's actually being released on Switch too. But they're just releasing games for last gen, even in the 2024. I think Nintendo could do that same thing.
Yeah.
At least for like a year.
I think that there's gonna be a transition period where Switch and Switch 2 are both relevant. So, not too concerned about that.
Yeah, they're not gonna abandon their 120 million people. They might have like exclusives here and there, like Demon Souls on PS5, but the other games were cross-gen. Like maybe 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 games will be exclusive.
Honestly, I'm really not sure how they're going to handle the software. Because I feel like there was a quote, I think, from Miyamoto was talking about how new hardware could give them more options in terms of designing their games. But if they still make the games they can run on older hardware too, then that kind of defeats the purpose of having new hardware, so you can come up with more gameplay possibilities.
Right, they were kind of hinting at, like he said, we want new hardware to do things that our last hardware couldn't. And
right.
That got me a little worried.
Right, but... so yeah, like having cross-gen games might not be as feasible. So, but I think what it is that there are, like, for example, so with the 3DS, towards the end of the 3DS's life cycle, there were a lot of remakes. We could see a lot more remakes throughout the Switch 2 early stage, where it would come out for Switch 2, but also be available for Switch. So there's still games that come for Switch, but they'll start to have some exclusives. And I also think that, let's say they wait till 2024, by waiting that long, does anyone really have the right? I mean, you can complain about whatever you want. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But if Switch came out in 2017, and the beginning of 2017, I might add, and goes beyond, and Switch doesn't come out till, like, say, like mid-2024, Switch will have been receiving games consistently for 7 straight years. At least.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I wouldn't really care if they were to just, we're not releasing anything anymore, because I'm going to get the thing day one anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us hardcore fans that are getting the systems day one that can afford to, it's not a big deal.
My big problem is
that's
I
where
think
the minority
it's like 99% going to be implemented, but backwards compatibility. If
I think
by
it
some
is.
chance they do have some,
I think it is,
Switch U weird change, I don't think they are. I think it's just going to be, it's not going to be called a Switch 2 per se, but it's going to be a hybrid device. And if you really think about it, the Switch is pretty simple. It's pretty much just a Wii, except you don't need the motion controls. It's not required.
Yeah.
So it could be very easy to emulate, even if the chipset isn't compatible with Switch 2. And Switch 2 will be probably powerful enough to emulate it.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do it, but I know that they're going to make sure it's there. I think it's too important. The audience on Switch is too large. I think they're going to do everything they can to make it a smooth transition, except for maybe a lot of cross-gen games. Like, I think they're going to make sure backwards compatibility is there. I think they're going to make sure NSO transfers over, cloud saves transfer over, your entire Nintendo accounts. Like, I think all of that is going to be seamless. I hope it is.
Yeah.
And
well, yeah, we know Nintendo accounts are here to stay. So presumably NSO.
We're paying for them. We're paying for subscriptions now. So
they have incentive.
Exactly. There's incentive. One thing I wanted to say about Switch 2 real quick was that the reason I was kind of asking you why your opinions kind of changed on it is because while I'm definitely at this point thinking it's a next year thing, I haven't completely given up on it happening this year yet. And my stance has been that I think a Switch 2 could be announced this summer. But if we get past this summer and it's not announced, then the answer is no. So basically,
yeah, if we get past Pikmin 4's release and we don't know about a Switch 2, it's next year, I'd say.
I agree. Yeah, I think kind of like if we get that July Nintendo Direct and then a few weeks afterwards there's no announcement of any sort of new system, I think at that point it's safe to say that there won't be a new system coming out this year. So yeah, we're getting close to that point.
It could be for the best because based on how long that chip's been done to T239, I'm willing to bet they have a lot of Switch 2s produced already, but they might not have enough for the launch. You remember how weird the Switch launch was? Like, I was barely able to get my hands on one. Like, my local GameStop ran out in like 45 minutes when they put up pre-orders. It's not like a PS5 situation, but it wasn't readily available. Now, Switch 2, they might have a bigger launch because they already have that faith in the brand from the Switch. They regained a lot of fans and added a lot of new ones. So Switch 2 is probably going to have a massive launch, and I think they want to be ready for that.
Yeah.
So maybe they did want to release it late this year, but maybe just have like a, PS5, just terrible stock issues. So that could be a reason. Because, I mean, if you really think about it, if we're looking at it from a home console perspective, this has been the longest time. Switch is the longest generation, and it's pretty close to the longest handheld generation, excluding the Game Boy.
I think technically the NES had pretty long.
Oh, that was 7 years. Yeah,
but that's kind of like a weird exception. That was their first generation, right?
Yeah, they rode the success of that for a while.
They also had two different versions, right? There was the Famicom in Japan.
Didn't the Famicom come out in like 83?
It did come out in 83. And I think in America it came out in 1985. It did. Yeah.
Okay, SNES was 90?
Was it 90? I thought it was 91, but let me double check.
Because I know 64 was in 96, because that's when Mario 64 came out.
1990. So,
yeah.
I mean, let's assume we're talking about the oldest version, so the Japan version, right? The Famicom came out July 1983. And the Super Nintendo, let me see here, because I'm sure it had there were still two different versions back then. The Super Famicom. The earliest version came out 1990. So the reason I was thinking 91 is because Super Nintendo came out in North America in 91, but it came out in Japan, Super Famicom, in 90.
Yeah, it used to be super delayed.
Yeah, so
I remember the new 3DS took like a whole year to come to the US, right?
Yeah, so I mean, if we look at the Famicom, right? from summer 1983 to holiday 1990, that is basically 7.5 years. So that would be the longest hardware generation. Now, if you look at it from North American standards, it was only 5 years.
Yeah, so North American would technically still be the longest.
Yeah, the
Famicom,
the Famicom is the longest one, but that was their first generation, and like you said, so the Switch is by March 2024 it'll be the 7-year anniversary. So with Nikkei estimating that we might not see the Switch 2 until like mid 2024, Switch is pacing to maybe be as old as the original Famicom, which is kind of crazy. That would be kind of crazy, yeah.
I think they're also not in a big rush because although hardware sales are going down pretty quicker than even they expected, their software sales are magnificent. Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, that's already at 15 million. It sold 10 million in the first 3 days. It's crazy.
Super crazy.
Like I remember, I was in a call in a few months ago on here. I'm gonna brag a little bit here. But I said, I think Tears of the Kingdom is gonna outsell Breath of the Wild on the Switch. And I thought I was crazy for saying that.
Well, it hasn't happened yet.
No, right. I could see it settling around like 25 million.
Well, I think last I heard it's at least at 15 million, right? So yeah, it's halfway there, and it hasn't had a holiday yet. So I think Tears of the Kingdom.
I think it's bundled in. I mean, it's hitting the 30 million this year, I'd say.
That'd be crazy. And the thing is, does that even account for DLC? Does that account for Switch 2 boost if they have like an updated version for that? I can see Tears of the Kingdom.
It will definitely outsell Breath of the Wild if we include like a Switch 2 thing.
I maybe we'll see how things go, but it's definitely a very, very, very promising start. Super promising. So there is something.
I was getting worried since it's so late in the generation. I'm like, is it too late for it to release? Is it even gonna sell incredibly well? It did.
Yeah.
People are still interested in playing their Switches. It's why they're not in a rush to release another thing. With the Wii, like right at the end, nobody was playing the Wii. Their big blockbuster title, Skyward Sword, sold like 3 million. Now that was kind of because of Wii Motion Plus, but still.
So I want to the AB James brought this up earlier, and I think it should be discussed. I haven't brought it up yet tonight, and I would like to talk about it for a little bit before we close out. But AB James brought up or said more people need to give Pikmin 4 a shot. The game looks extremely polished. I totally agree. Pikmin 4 visually is impressive. There's something about the lighting and the textures. It just seems to have more depth than most games, and it's clearly looking better than Pikmin 3. It looks good. It looks good, and I'm very excited about it. Like how do you feel about Pikmin 4? Are you hyped for it?
I'm very hyped. Yeah, I think it's being slept on. It's going to be a sleeper hit. Hopefully it does well. I think it will. It'll at least do as good as 3 Deluxe, so that should be enough. But yeah, I think it's a Pikmin game. It's not doing anything crazy, but it looks very polished. It might be a sizable adventure, bigger than Pikmin 3, I'd say. The third person kind of perspective from the front, that's new.
Yeah, the camera angle just makes it look a lot more dynamic.
I think it's going to make it
see more of the environment.
More immersive.
Yeah. It at least seems more to look. It looks more fun, if that makes any sense. Like, because when you have more of the top down look, it looks. I mean, it is a strategy game, but not everyone's is as excited for the strategy style games. But when you go more behind the back as it is doing, It's still Pikmin gameplay. It's still the strategy gameplay, but it's also feeling more action packed, more action, and yeah, it's more actiony. Like that's just, I guess, how like it feels like a third person action adventure. So that is probably gonna make it feel a little bit more inviting to people. It's kind of a subtle change, but I think it's gonna be a significant one.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
game looks great, and people are going to be riding that. Oh, we just got Tears of the Kingdom, so I'll buy the next thing Nintendo comes out with. I don't count everybody's 1-2 Switch in that. I never will. But Pikmin 4. I actually might pick up everybody's 1-2 Switch for the jokes.
I think I'm gonna save my $30.
See, here's the thing. I go on Steam and I pick up bad games just to play bad games, like $1.99 games. But those are $1.99. This is $30. I don't know, but it's gonna be pretty bad if the insiders are anything to go by. So really, Pikmin 4 is like the next big thing. But yeah, I think it's gonna be good. It'll be good, like a 1 week thing. It's being slept on.
I'm seeing some debate in the chat about how much Tears of the Kingdom has sold already. Last I heard it was 15 million, but have you already got an update? Is it already at 20?
Paul Gale said 15. Oh, 20 already.
Did he? Paul, I mean, I trust Paul. Paul was on the podcast
Well, Paul
last
said
Monday.
15 million. That was after its second weekend. So it sold like 5 million after the first weekend.
Yeah.
I believe so. I could see it passing 20 by now. It's had a couple extra weeks.
I'm not saying it isn't there. My only argument is do we have evidence of it? Have we seen some data or a report suggesting or showing that it has? And I haven't seen that, so that's why I'm asking.
Me neither.
Yeah. I'm not saying it can't be the case. I don't know. I want the proof. That's all. Yeah, but what did you think of the trailer for Pikmin 4 though? Because it was such a short trailer.
Recent one, the character.
Yeah.
I think it was cool. It was a nice little thing. I know there was some talk about, does this deconfirm direct? No. It's one of those things like Fire Emblem Engage when they showed like the hub world, and they still had a direct in September and February, and it's just one of those little trailers that gets dropped. Like another example is the Dread reports. Stuff like that. Just like little stuff. It's not the big trailer that it needs. It's still gonna get that.
Yeah, I do think that they could have, say, for example, a Nintendo Direct literally next week, and they could give us a whole new Pikmin 4 trailer. We have seen scenarios like that before, but when we account for this, the website update as well, we got some more details there. Some images have come out as on top of that. It seems like they're kind of just starting to market Pikmin 4 now overall. And also, we got the Everybody 1-2 Switch announcement just a few days ago as well. It does kind of make me wonder what they're doing. What's interesting about the Everybody 1-2 Switch situation is that there was no footage shown off for the game. And it's kind of funny. A few people, more than one, I was talking to behind the scenes. Someone reached out to me, and I asked around, and I heard from a few other people that there was a commercial being that was already filmed for Everybody 1-2 Switch. We haven't seen that commercial yet, but like a day later, or I think hours later, they announced Everybody 1-2 Switch, officially. But there's no footage. no footage of it, which is just very peculiar. And I think it's because the game's probably bad. I think it's,
Nintendo's not very confident in it.
yeah, and the only reason I assume it's bad is because there was a rumor a year ago that it was play tested and it was really bad, and everything about the rumor has been true. And this is coming from a reputable source, Imran Khan. Like, there was talk of it being having a horse host. That's true. It was talk of it having smartphones like Jackbox. That's all true from we can see of the 2 pieces of art that's there. It's like everything about it. The name is exactly as it was said in the rumor.
If it's anything like Jackbox, I'm not really interested.
It's not my cup of tea either. So, yeah, it doesn't bode well for what it's going to be. But whatever, it is what it is.
It's going to be swept under the rug like the the original 1-2 Switch.
But I guess the reason I brought it up though is in terms of thinking in terms of like what we could get with a Direct. This is something I would think they would announce in a Direct. And when you factor in there's not a lot of Pikmin information, not a lot of Road to 1-2 Switch information, you can maybe argue, well, maybe we'll get that information in a Direct. But I think the lack of info, to your point, might be more of a sweeping it under the rug as opposed to, hey, we're going to show off more during a Direct. So yeah, it's tough.
I think they see the this 1-minute Pikmin trailer and just the whole release of everybody's 1-2 Switches, small things that, I mean, this would accompany about 2 minutes of a Direct, So, I think they have a bigger trailer planned. Now, if the Direct, all right, so there's probably going to be something next month. I mean, Jeff Grubb is usually right on this stuff, so I'll just assume there's something.
Yeah.
Is it a partner showcase?
I don't think so because we don't know about the second half, so we need to learn about that.
Yeah.
So
like we're gonna get news.
I think it's gonna be we're gonna get news. Yeah.
So I think it doesn't really make sense for them not to have a general Direct. Because there has to be news. I mean, they're not just gonna, give up on the Switch in the second half. I don't see them doing that. Yeah, I think there's going to be a Direct. It's not going to be like a 2017 holiday, but it's going to be a pretty decent holiday, especially if there's Metroid. Probably F-Zero, right? Metroid. I don't know how valid that Paper Mario rumor is, but probably a bunch of remasters.
I want it to be real.
Yeah, me too.
But
I actually never played the 1,000-Year Door.
Yeah, that would be a good remaster to get. Yeah, I'm not sure. The only ones that I feel confident on are F-Zero GX and Metroid Prime 4, and I know that's not it. I know there's more.
Right.
We just don't know what those are.
There's probably during the holiday they tend to have sometimes like 2, sometimes even 3 games per month. So from the span of like August to
we also
December,
have 3 different we have at least 2 different DLCs. 4. There's 3 official DLCs to consider as well, and maybe a 4th. So we have Splatoon 3s, we have Pokemon's, and we have the 2 waves of Mario Kart, and potentially Tears of the Kingdom DLC as well. So
I think Wave 1 could come out this year.
Yeah, 1 wave of Pokemon is coming out this year. We might get 1 wave of Tears of the Kingdom DLC this year. So
yeah, I could see the equivalent of the Master Mode DLC. I could see that dropping like October, November-ish.
I think there will be something. They may want to save some of that to kind of reinvigorate the conversation around Tears of the Kingdom close to the holidays so it can sell more.
Yeah, I think they're just giving the game some time to cool down here.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't there a little backlash with the Engage DLC because it was announced before?
Wouldn't be it wouldn't be the first time DLC was announced before release. It's happened a few times. So yeah, people complain, but It is what it is. I didn't care for it, so I didn't really buy it. It depends on the game, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't buy the. I actually didn't finish Engage.
I haven't finished it either. I plan on it, but right now I'm playing
I
Tears
have
of the
like
Kingdom. So
5 or 10 more chapters to go or something.
yeah,
I just haven't got around.
I
to
want
it.
100% Tears of the Kingdom, and that's gonna take me some time. But then I want to replay and finish Pikmin 3. So that's gonna be.
I'm actually done with
a little bit time consuming.
A lot of the stuff to do in Tears of the Kingdom. I'm pretty close to 100%ing, but I refuse to do the Korok seeds. I know that's part of the 100%.
Is it?
No.
Is it? I think you can 100% the game without getting all the Korok seeds. Like on the map,
you know what I consider 100%?
There's a 100% number. So
doing one of the 5 different puzzles that they rinse and repeat. That's what I consider 100%ing those.
Doing one of each.
It's the same 5 things.
There's moving the cube. There's landing on the platform. There's the dandelion. There's the yank out.
They want you to.
And there's the help my friend.
Them.
No, that's not. I don't think that's the intention of them. That never has been. But it's something that some people can do if they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know someone who's getting all 1,000. That's crazy.
So, I'm gonna close out here. But is there one final thing you want to talk about, Samuel, before we call it a night?
Is Metroid Prime 4 gonna pass 5 million?
My immediate gut response internally, mentally, was yes, and there was no no's. It was yes and then yes. So yes, that we'll see, but I think so. I think it will, especially
if it has multiplayer or co-op. Like that'd be a big sell.
Yeah.
I think you talked about on a podcast before, like, it could be co-op, but like with the 2 people going in different but converging paths. I think you brought up that idea.
Oh, for Metroid? Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
but it'd be really cool.
Yeah, that won't happen.
It's about as crazy as my multiplayer Tears of the Kingdom idea. Oh yeah, the Dark Souls summon. Yeah. Yeah, it would be so amazing. Maybe as DLC on Switch too. I don't know, but I think it's mostly a hardware limitation. But if it isn't, honestly, Metroid is like you're meant to feel isolated. Yeah. In this alien world, so multiplayer would be a little. If they do it right, they could do it right. But... I mean, I like the multiplayer in Hunters, and I like the multiplayer in Echoes. It wasn't like super deep, but it was cool. So if they can integrate it, great. But I'm not expecting it. How was the multiplayer in that? Was it like a very basic, like 2v2 kind of thing? It was I think a team deathmatch. I don't remember if you could do teams. It was just 4 players, and you had some different power-ups, and you would just attack each other with cannons and running around, dancing and shooting. Hunters is more sophisticated. So yeah. Shout out to Niche Quick Pops. Yes, guys, if you like the stream, that'd be super helpful. I'd appreciate it very much. But I'll do a few minutes of just kind of asking a few questions to the chat, and then we'll close out here. Sam, feel free to chime in too if you'd like. AB James added me. Are you doing all the signs with the sign guy in Tears of the Kingdom? I think there's like 80 total. You've been skipping them. I plan on it. I heard there was 81. I think. So yeah, I don't see why not. I want to see what happens afterwards. That seems doable. It's not like 900 or 1,000 Korok seeds, so it doesn't. I've done all of them. Yeah. Would you like me to say if there's a reward or not? I don't want to know what the reward is, but if you could tell me if there's a reward, sure. There is. Okay, cool. Did you feel it was worth it? Did you get 20 rupees? No, it's a unique item, but okay. Was the Korok seed reward worth it to you? Yes.
Then there you go.
Yeah. The Megaton Menace. I think that Metroid Prime 4 is too nice to be a launch title, and that doing so would cause the console to fail. Well, I'll say that
Prime 4 could be very big.
I think Prime 4 have I as I said earlier, I actually like the idea of Prime 4 just being the holiday title this year without Switch 2, just because it might give it the perfect opportunity to really capture a new audience and give it a second wind on Switch 2. I don't think Prime 4 should be the launch title for Switch 2, just because if people haven't tried it out yet, I don't think they're gonna buy Switch 2 for it, unless like they show off just so much amazing gameplay that so many people are like, "Oh my god, this is the greatest game ever. We need to buy a system for this game." But that would also mean that Prime 4 is not exclusive. So I just
3D Mario Kart, or Zelda those are the most effective launches to a system. I don't think a system's ever been launched with Mario Kart.
No,
I don't know.
it hasn't. No, I don't think
but
so.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold 60 million almost, so I'm assuming it'd be fine.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's a port. It's an enhanced port.
All right, I'll take this last question and I'll call it a night. All right, so Risky Gumiar asks me, "What's your opinion on trash Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom narrative? Nintendo's oldest game companies, yet they still can't make good storytelling." Well, I don't agree.
I think both had a
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom, just has a good story all around. It's not even debatable. Breath of the Wild had a good story, but it already happened. That was the problem with it. But the story itself was good and emotional. But yeah, I think it's pretty good.
I'll say that I think that Breath of the Wild story, like I think the story in Breath of the Wild is actually good. I just wasn't the biggest fan of how it was told. In Tears of the Kingdom, however, they did do the memories again, but I think they handled it a lot better. And the reason I think they handled it a lot better was for a few. I brought up one earlier. I think one of the problems I had with the memories in Breath of the Wild is that because the characters were talking to Link as if it was a dialogue, but we were just hearing a monologue, it was a little awkward. A lot of the memories don't have Link in them. It's more telling about the story of Zelda in a different realm. And that is pretty good. And then there are other moments that Link experiences on his own as you progress throughout the main story as Link, and those I think are pretty good as well.
Especially when you get to hear about the imprisoning war and really get refreshed on it.
That's the one problem I have with the story in Tears of the Kingdom, is they retell that the imprisoning war too many times. It is a little repetitive. That's probably its most glaring issue. But I think in terms of what they did with Ganondorf and the story with that, I think is strong. And the thing is, I look beyond just the cutscenes. I look at the environmental storytelling. I look at the stories that are taking place in the different regions of the world. I look at the side quests and NPCs and what they're saying. I look at the ruins and what they suggest for the history and the damage and everything that's ensued. And just there's a lot to explore and find. Even now I'm still finding little things here and there. And that's all powerful stuff. I don't want to spoil anything about the game.
I think the world building is fantastic.
Yes.
Like with a certain place that you help out. I don't know if I should say that yet, but there's a certain place that you rid of bad people, and there's people from that place that go back there. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Just things in general.
There's some cool
doing
stuff.
stuff.
Like you can eventually revisit, right? Like the Like, just the fact that you can revisit the beginning of the game towards the end of the game, and there's certain details
That
there
was epic.
that was so cool. Like, I just don't want to spoil it, but there's just like some very subtle details that you can see, and like, oh,
So
they
since
took
you
that into account. It's really cool. I
since
know
you
a lot
beat
of
the final
people.
boss,
Go on, sure.
um,
Don't spoil anything for anyone watching though.
no, I know, yeah. Um, would you say it's the best in the series, or at least like a top 2 or top 3?
I think so.
I'm gonna put it as the best.
I think so. I think it is. I think the. I would say phase 1 and 2 are really good. I don't know if I would say they are the best, but phase 3. Ho, 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 ho.
Yes.
Yeah. I think overall it's very strong, and I don't know if I can say with 100% certainty quite yet, but it might be. It might be the absolute best.
I just
It
think
at least
the
has
voice acting really helps too.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think the thing with Ganondorf is that it's not. First off, there's like the main cutscenes. Like there's a lot of puppet Ganon stuff that happens. A lot of puppet Ganon stuff. Like there's the Gloom Hands. And that's within the context of the gameplay. That part is kind of helps with the story, because that's, if you think about it, the Gloom
It's like
Hands
a rivalry.
it's Ganon chasing you around the world, right?
Yeah, it's almost him like taunting you.
And then
You know.
I'm also not going to talk about what this is, but there is also a almost like your fault as you progress throughout the main story. There's a recurring character. There's a lot of mystery around. When you discover who the character truly is, and then there's the big story moment right after you do the 4 main dungeons. That adds a lot more.
Awesome.
And then when you go to the final, fight, there's a lot. I think they do a good job of building up particular characters. So I think Tears of the Kingdom is actually moves in a very positive direction overall for the story. It's not perfect because of the retelling of the imprisoning, where I think that's a little annoying. And I'm unsure of how I feel about collecting the memories out of order. You can collect them in order if you choose to, but you have to make a concerted effort to do so. You have to actually look up which ones are which, and that's how you have to progress throughout the world. For me, I'm
a victim of that, because I got spoiled with a certain pair of memories that are directly linked. And I had a 50-50 shot, and I viewed the wrong one. So I think they should, like you mentioned, they should be, no matter where you go, it's just in order. And also, like you said, I know the geoglyphs, they kind of resemble what happens, but, I just like to view them in a linear order. Like, not everything has to be 100% open-ended.
There's some linearity with Tears of the Kingdom, which I think benefits the overall narrative, but the openness is... I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I'll say that once I finish all the memories you collect, there is the final one you unlock afterwards that adds a certain level of linearity to it, and the final one's the most important one. So,
right.
It kind of makes
like,
it work.
I was cool with the memories.
Yeah,
it's just that small little gripe that I viewed that one out of order. Actually, before going to the final boss, I looked through them all again in order, just to really see it how it was told during. It was a lot different.
What I would kind of like is if maybe they would have done something where only a few of the glyphs are visible at a time.
Right.
Like maybe only three at first, like, and those 3 you can experience out of order, but they kind of tell the beginning, and then once you get those 3, more appear, and then you do those, and then more appear, and you do those, and that way it can still be somewhat out of order, but it kind of builds up a little bit. Either that, or have all the glyphs available from the beginning, but as you approach them, it tells the story in a clear order, regardless of which one you go to. One or the other is how
Yeah,
I
I think
prefer
the
it. Like,
next Zelda is going to do this differently because Tears of the Kingdoms are very much trying to, it's very inspired by Breath of the Wild. It just kind of expands on it in every way. I think they're going to get a little experimental with this formula next Zelda,
yeah,
whenever that is.
yeah.
Like at the very earliest, if we're very lucky, we're getting in 2028, late 2028. But it's probably 2029 or 2030.
Yeah. Checking with the chat here. Charles Shadell asks me, I think Risky is trying to put words in your mouth. Here is his quote. Even Andres Restart is hating Tears of the Kingdom story. I am not hating Tears of the Kingdom story. I actually I've noticed a lot of people hating on Tears of the Kingdom story, and it somewhat bothers me, because I'm like, I think the story's good. I do. No, there's no such thing as perfection at all. Like, for years I've made critiques about Breath of the Wild, but I still regard it as my favorite game of all time. Now with Tears of the Kingdom, it's under debate, but yeah, I do not hate the Tears of the Kingdom story at all. It has some issues, but there is no such thing as any game that is perfect. So
It was a really good story.
yeah. Yeah,
it was held a lot better than Breath of the Wild.
I absolutely. I think they improved a lot. Now,
They
people
could have just done the same thing as Breath of the Wild and kind of have a minimal story, but they made an attempt, and it's a lot better. So.
I do not agree the narrative is bad, Risky. I think the narrative is good in Tears of the Kingdom. I think it's really good. I just think there are some parts that are bad. I don't even like saying bad. I just question. Well, retelling the imprisoning war a few times. It's definitely very much, not that part. I don't think is good. But it's not. It's a minor gripe, but it is a gripe.
I think the Tears of the Kingdom story is a lot more involved than a lot of Zelda games stories. Ocarina of Time story was, it was pretty basic. I mean, I liked it a lot, but
I thought the story in Ocarina of Time was actually pretty cool. But it's an older game. There's some moments. I wouldn't say Tears of the Kingdom has a lot more.
Like when you get the spiritual stones and you get tricked. That's a really cool moment. It has some spots, but Tears of the Kingdom is very cinematic, and I think it's told very well, and it's got a lot of complexity, and the world itself has a lot of lore.
Yeah.
The Ring Ruins alone.
Yeah. But I think that is it for tonight. Guys, play nicely in the chat, please. But thank you all for listening and watching. Samuel, thanks for coming on. If you guys could like the stream, that'd be super appreciated. It helps out a lot, but I'll see you all really soon. I'm trying to finish a Zelda timeline video for tomorrow. We'll see if I finish, but yeah, that's all for now, everyone. See you later. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, good luck fitting Tears of the Kingdom in there. I do agree that it doesn't retcon things, though. Like, I watched some videos and I listened to you talk about it.